Bassmaster has spoken. They have made their electronics rule, and I think it works. Let me tell you why. I think it works because now we've got some limitations going on. So this right here, 2 live transducers, ain't gonna be happening next year on the Bassmaster circuit. Only 1 live transducer is gonna be happening. Plus, the other big announcement with their electronics is that the number of inches of screen. So I've got 2 12-inch units back yonder way, and I've got a 22-inch and a 12-inch up here, which means I'm 1 inch over. Only 1 inch over the mark. So I've got to make this a 21-inch screen or this an 11-inch screen, and I'm good. But that's not what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna reconfigure that. I haven't even ordered all that stuff yet, so I'll show you that once I get it in. But with Bassmaster, they're gonna be limiting the number of screen inches to 55 inches total. I think that's a good call. I like that. Keeps it to where it's not just a total arms race for electronics, but yet we still get to utilize the technology that's out there. And I'll get to why I think that is a good thing here in just a minute. But the other part of this ruling that they did was that they said we can only have 1 trolling motor, 1 electric motor, so to speak. And what that does is it really limits the other side of the boat. But I got my power pole move. I love my power pole move. I will have my power pole move again next year. So that is good. But what they did limit is that the power poles in the back of the boat, they were putting C brakes. I think it was one of the companies that had them on there. Pretty nifty. They have electric motors on the power poles, so you lower your power poles down about halfway in the water, and then you're going to have 2 on each side, so you can do, essentially spot lock away from the bank. So you could free up your trolling motor to be able to poke around with the live scope with the ones in the back. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's cool. It's neat. If you're a crappie fisherman, I mean, it's just like, to me, it's super cool and super fun. I'm gonna try to set this camera down so I can talk to you as well. But yeah, it's super cool. But for bass fishing, the reason that they did not like that, Bassmaster that is because when those sea brakes were down, they had reports of anglers that were throwing out to fish on their live scope, and then they were backing their boat up and extending their cast, which by definition is long lining or using the boat or motor to have a mechanical advantage that your lure does not normally have on a regular cast. That is the reason that they did it away with those. I think that's probably a good idea. I really like the innovative aspect of it. I didn't run those. I thought it was a cool idea. If they were gonna let us run those next year, I was gonna consider getting those on my boat for next year, but that rule is now been placed, so that's not gonna happen next year. I'm gonna have 1 live transducer, probably go with the Garmin LVS 34. The LVS 62 is really cool. The XR, the Super Mega, the saltwater version, whatever you want to call it, that thing shoots out a little bit further, but I think the LVS 34 is a little more defined. That's why I'm going to run that. I think that's going to be the gold standard still. The Active Target 2 is good. And a lot of these guys that run Lowrance, they are absolutely not at any disadvantage by running Active Target. I'll tell you that much. So that is good. But my preference, what I'm comfortable with, what I've run the last handful of years, is the Garmin units. I'm going to run those again next year. But the other thing that they did not limit, Bassmaster that is the 360. So we're going to be running 360 again next year. I did not have 360 this year because I went with 2 live transducers. I had live and 360 the year before in the 23 tournament season. I'm going to go back to that. I really enjoyed that. I really like 360. I think it's a cool product, so I'm going to have 360 on the front. I think that's what you'll see a lot of guys going to, is having live and 360. 360 is not live. It is different. It is it's like side imaging that spins around. You get to see a 3D picture. So that's that. But let me tell you why Bassmaster did a good thing by having this. I think they could have made it one step better, and they really haven't told us what, if this might be a thing, but I don't think it will be by their ruling in the press release that went out today. Is that Bassmaster tournament trail, along with all the other big tournament trails out there, whether it's BPT, the Bassmaster Opens, I mean even the kayak series, the top level tournaments are really what educate the masses on how to catch a bass. I mean, you can thank Ray Scott, having the tournaments and putting together this Bassmaster magazine. I used to read it as a kid. I would learn how to throw a jig like Denny Brower, learn how to throw a spinnerbait like Jimmy Houston and Kevin Van Dam. Now we've kind of evolved to all of this live coverage of all of these tournament trails. That's what the hardcore anglers, and by the hardcore anglers learning it, it trickles down to the more novice anglers learning how to catch bass using whatever the top tournament trails are using. I know a lot of the public is tired of seeing anglers stare at their screens and catch fish on live scope or active target or Humminbird Live or whatever it is. But honestly, they have sold a ton of live units over the last couple years. There are a ton of anglers, from my opinion, that want to know how to utilize these electronics that they just spent thousands of dollars on. How do I catch fish better using them? So the top tournament trails, if they all banned them, then these anglers wouldn't get to learn how to use them. And I know a lot of people are going to say, okay, well, that would be good for the fisheries because more of the fish would not get caught. So really what they're saying is that they want to make fishing more difficult so that anglers catch less fish and they don't have as good of time fishing and they don't buy as many fishing lures in total and they don't spend as much time in the boats because it's not as fun because they don't catch as many fish. Like that logic does not add up for me. I think there needs to be a mix. That is what I'm a big advocate for. I think it would be super cool if Bassmaster came out and said, hey, we're going to have 1 or 2 wild card tournaments on the Elite Series next year. I think that would be super cool. And when I say wild card, I mean no live transducers for 1 or 2 events, something like that. A mix. So anglers and people get to see, what happens if you totally have none. And my guess is they'd be kind of surprised because a lot of the same stuff would happen. What has been winning in the top 10 in a lot of these tournaments, there's still been a mix of live and non-live anglers. But what people like to complain about and talk about is the live anglers because they think, oh, that's 100% all that they do. All these rookies, all they know how to do is use live. They don't know how to flip. That's just not true. That is just not true. There are a lot of really good anglers that are rookies or second year guys that are very good at flipping, throwing a chatterbait, doing all this other kind of stuff to catch fish, fishing ledges, all that kind of stuff. I mean, go back a number of years. Even the John Garrett, Jacob Fouts, those guys kicked butt in the college ranks really before this whole live scope thing got big, before they even really had it. So you can't sit here and tell me that Fouts and Garrett can't go out there and catch them off ledges without forward-facing sonar, because that's just not true. Those guys are really good. And now they're out here taking our lunch money because them boys hungry. Fouts was hungry all year. He just kept his mouth shut and he fished hard and he whooped everybody. Just about. I think he finished 3rd in Angler of the Year. So he had a fantastic year, but he adapted and he was hungry. So getting back to the mix of with and without, with Bassmaster, they also made that announcement, I think I mentioned earlier, that they're going to try to make the schedule where it's not totally dependent on live scope for tournaments with time of the year being conscious. So they're going to try to go to places where forward facing is not going to dominate. Sure, we're if we go to somewhere like St. Clair or St. Lawrence, live scopes are probably going to dominate or be a big part of what people do, unless they're, say spawning, and then it wouldn't. But maybe they'll do that if they go to St. Lawrence or St. Clair, somewhere like that, and the fish are on beds. They'd have to go opening weekend, but even if they did, it'd probably be dominated by people that are visually looking at them. So, you could adjust the schedule, and I think that's what Bassmaster was saying in their announcement, that they're going to come out and try to adjust the schedule to where they are conscious of not all of the tournaments being dominant with FFS. Bassmaster knows what they're doing. They've been scheduling tournaments for years and years and years. They've got the likes of Davey Height helping them with the schedule, so they know, Davey knows when it's going to play and when it's not going to play. So I think that's going to help solve some of the issues with that. But I think overall it's a good thing that Bassmaster did to come out, set some limitations, not eliminate technology. They didn't, Mercury came out with an amazing 4-stroke engine that's on the back of my boat. They didn't say, all right, Mercury, you can't come out with a 4-stroke engine. It's too fuel efficient. It's too fast. It doesn't do what they didn't say all that. They just said 250 horse. They set a limit at 250 horsepower. However you want to achieve that, it's fine. I think the technology, it's hard to get the live horse back in the barn. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, you could just ban it. Well, then you're going backwards. I'm not going to be as efficient of an angler without live technology. And what I mean by efficient, it's not about, when you see this live technology, it is not about just, finding fish and chasing them down and throwing at them. That ain't what, the majority of live sonar fishing is. The majority of it is panning around, seeing a brush pile, seeing 2 dots on it, and throwing at the brush pile and seeing how the dots react. If the dots swim off and go somewhere else and you can't keep up with them, you're not going to keep casting at that brush pile. You're going to go try to find a dock post or a stump or something else that maybe has a dot near it, or maybe it doesn't. A lot of what I find is cover that has fish near it, that looks like you should have fish near it, and then I throw my bait over there. A lot of times fish come up out of the woodwork, come up out of nowhere, and end up biting it. So I think there are a lot of misnomers about what, fishing with live scope and fishing with forward-facing sonar, live transducers really is and really means. And taking it away, what the real effect of that would be is that we're not going to places that we know really well. It's not like me going to a place like Bugs Island or the Smith Mountain Lake, a place that I know pretty darn well. I'm not saying I'm an expert on either place, but I know them pretty well. It's not like we're going to something that's your quote-unquote home pond and saying, all right, now fish without forward-facing sonar. Most people would say, yeah, sure, no problem. I know where they live. I know kind of what they should be biting. I know what they should be doing. But that's not what we do on the Bassmaster Elite Series. We go to a lot of new lakes. We got to go to places that we may have only been to 3 or 4 or 5 times ever in our life. And we're talking about giant places. So the live technology helps us be efficient in finding new water, finding fish, and catching them to be able to display and entertain and educate everybody on how to catch bass. So that's my 2 cents on why I think the Bassmaster reeling was a good happy medium. It's not perfect. There's probably not going to be a reeling that is perfect in anybody's eyes. So there are going to be people that are in favor of it, people that are not in favor of it, and that's fine. If you got people that are kind of even on both sides of it, then you probably made a good decision, and I think that's what we're going to see from Bassmaster. So if you agree with Bassmaster's decision to limit to 1 forward-facing transducer, 1 live transducer, limit to 55 inches of total screen on the boat, and the limit to 1 electric motor on the boat. If you think that's a good happy medium for 2025 on the Bassmaster Elite Series, let's hear if you agree or disagree with that down at the bottom. I think it'll be kind of curious to see what people think. Again, I might be tilting you, and maybe I made you a little biased because I think it's a good decision. At least we're going to go out there in 25 And I think through the first 4, 5, 6 tournaments, we'll find out whether it's a good happy medium or it's not a good happy medium. MPFL has just come out and said that they are going to ban live sonar, not going to have any live sonar. So that is already a little experiment that we're going to see what that coverage and what that looks like as far as from a tournament trail. And then Bassmaster, with their limitations on it, MLF has not announced what they're going to do yet for BPT. I've heard some grumblings, but we'll go ahead and give you some commentary on that whenever that comes out. Because MLF has layers, they have a lot of layers, and they got to announce what they're going to do with the BFL level, the Toyota level, Tackle Warehouse, Pro Circuit, whatever it's called now, the BPT. They got a lot. They got a lot to. So I think their situation is a little more complex. Have not heard from Bassmaster exactly what they're going to do on the opens, but my guess is that the opens will probably mirror what we're doing on the elites. Just my assumption. I think that would probably be smart, just to be consistent. And if you're going to have somebody fish both, you can do it with the same boat. And if you're going to qualify for the elites, you should probably play the game with the same tools that you qualify for with the same tools that you're going to go to the elites with. It's my 2 cents, but if anybody wants to comment down there, let's keep it nice, let's keep it happy, let's keep it fun, because this is bass fishing. It is a great sport, and I love it, and I know you love it, and let's keep it rolling, let's keep it safe and fun. Thanks.